it's always good to have a support system, especially when you do service for the community. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, it's easy for us to get lost in fucking other people's behavior because we're surrounded by it consistently. You know what I'm saying? And then, when you have conscious people in your life, it makes things so much easier to understand. It's almost like you create your own circle when you build conscious, when you're a conscious creator and you start living from that space, or you know what I'm saying, seeing things clearly where you live from that space, because it's a choice that you want to do. You know what I'm saying? You choose it. And it's also a relief, dude, because you know what I'm saying, it's like the further out you go into the world and the longer you are there, the more you get brainwashed, and you got to come back home. You're like, you can only handle so much in the outside world, but you're like, nah. I'm better than this. I'm brighter than this. You know what I'm saying? Not that you're not walking around like your shit don't stink type of attitude. You're just walking around like, oh damn, I got to deal with this, right? Not realizing that it's like, yeah, I think we do this every day on the regular for those of us who have to go out into the outside world in one way or another. It's just like, oh, well, it's no surprise that that energy would pass us eventually, to the point where we don't mind being outside, where we just like to stand in the sun, where we enjoy the wind and even the city. You know what I'm saying? Like, we really, really connect with the elements in a way that really, really brings things down to a fucking stable level. You know what I'm saying? And it allows you to carry yourself in a way that doesn't cause you to panic, that doesn't cause you to fucking like overreact. It's more like you're in like Zen in that moment. You know what I'm saying? That you're in the outside world, you're completely at Zen, and it doesn't matter how much noise you're perceiving outside of yourself. It's just an understanding that it's outside of yourself, right? And then the energy doesn't, you know what I'm saying? The energy doesn't permeate you. You become the observer of your experience, and you start looking at everything completely differently. You know, when you're in that kind of like 0 point or that Zen-like state where you're looking around like an innocent creature that is just observing everything without thought or judgment, right? And then you realize that the more you practice this, the more frequent it becomes, and a lot easier it is to navigate the outside world, and understanding that, whatever comes up, whatever challenge, whatever fear you're faced with, whatever pisses you off, whatever makes you feel a certain type of way, is actually opening you up for more understanding of what those things actually are. Kind of like teaching a little kid. You know what I'm saying? Because some of us are just vulnerable, and we have to be adults. So like they're basically, we place a stronghold on our inner child, you know? And this is the same thing that happens when, you come up with abusive behavior and shit like that. You just learn for a majority of your life, basically ways to shut your shit down, so that way you don't have to feel hurt, insecurity, guilt, grief. You know what I'm saying? And then you lock these layers down, and little by little you realize in those moments that you're like kind of like in that Zen state. You come to realize that these feelings are valid and that they're actually beautiful, but they were detrimental when we used to look at them the way that we used to look at things. You know what I'm saying? Our ability to feel is a sixth sense. You know what I'm saying? It's part of our senses. It's part of how we experience this physical world, is I feel, right? But I feel shouldn't turn into I am, you know? If you're having problems with your emotions, or you're around emotional people, or just these environments that kind of like physically drain you or energetically drain you at the same time, you don't want to gas yourself, is what Spirit just said, So don't overinterpret that space, but also at the same time, honor the warm embrace that consciousness has to give you when you feel that vibe, when you feel that rhythm, when you have that feeling, because there's something very magical happening simultaneously that we're unaware of, that we're not paying attention to, that is extremely divine. And it brings peace to you in ways that peace can't bring. You know what I'm saying? A physical peace can't bring. Because then you start seeing, you see the things for what they are. You see things for what it is, right? And then you move on without all that emotional baggage that a lot of people carry, or this fucking little drama You know, they show me like a fucking timetable of this drama cycle that we all go through in one way or another, because we don't want to do shit, because we don't want to face our fears, because we don't want to feel our feelings, you know. And then these things have to, they're reversible, right? And when they show me reversible, this is what the planetary alignments are for, is to, you know, they're reversible as well. They also mention retrogrades. They also make things going back to go forward, like you're in another place, you're on another foundation. You have a new way of looking at your ideal life from where you're at right now. You know what I'm saying? And if this isn't like a realization for you, then you know what I'm saying? Like maybe like, you know, maybe it's a time for a review or a time for a discussion about what's really important in your life, you know? But for those of you who are actually paying attention and kind of like feeling the flow and feeling the vibe, not necessarily knowing what to do with it, you know what I'm saying? Or knowing what to do with it, you have the ability to carry on in such a smoother, more conscious behavior where you're not as reactive as the outside world. You're actually slowing things down to realize that the speed of life is way slower than the speed of reality that is happening right here. And the more you become the observer of that, the more the warm embrace of the creator is inside of you, and that realization is to be true. You know what I'm saying? So practice you right now. You know, I think today is a good time for revelation. We said it last night, where a lot of people were going to realize that they were on a new level of clarity, that they were going to see something different today, something different in themselves is what I'm also being told. Like something's lighter, something's brighter, something's more than usual is what I'm hearing here. You know what I'm saying? And then they're showing me Uranus at the same time. It's like, these are the benefits from the benefics. You know what I'm saying? These great giant planets that harmonize this atmosphere that we're in, you know. And we don't honor that enough, because you know what I'm saying, like literally, and it's already in your DNA. If the stars are in your DNA, then you're part of the stars out there, which means that's everything that you're actually connected to. So why limit yourself to the bubble that you're in? You know what I'm saying? And they're showing me the earth. You know, let's have a broader perspective of who we are, honor what we are, and then take that warm embrace into physical and share this knowledge and wisdom. Share the joy, the love, and the happiness from the revelation and the experiences and the wisdoms that you all gain. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants to help somebody, including themselves. And this is an easy way to just be you, be authentically you, and go out there and be what the fuck you want to be, because God's intended it to be. You know, and all these things are literally coming up right now, making people nervous, shaking them up. You know, I feel like there's a lot of triggered behavior out there, that we're just kind of like monitoring ourselves, and we don't just like the way that we feel for this, or, you know, there's a little chatter in our fucking heads is what I'm getting with this energy. You know what I'm saying? This is beyond, you know. And right now we're in stability, fam. So that's the opposite of where you are if you're experiencing these things. The troubled behavior, you're on a new level of awareness, you're on a new level of clarity. So it feels like everything's fucking a little out of control, possibly for you. You know what I'm saying? This is part of the understanding of how ascension actually works. When everything changes or everything shifts, so does our demeanor and our awareness of everything around us, right? And sometimes, if not most times, the chatter, the mental chatter, or the things getting in the way is one of the first things that we face when we're highly intuitive, or we're getting psychic messages or communication. There's usually a lot of fuckery involved. You know, some people can take it personal and think that somebody's actually doing it to them, when in reality, nothing is happening but your ascension and the realization that you're on another level, because there's a bunch of chatter in your head that you thought was gone, or you've never heard before, that is negative as fuck, or pessimistic as fuck, or sarcastic as fuck. Those things are not you anymore, and that's what it's showing you. It's the actual reflection, the opposite of what you are in that moment, right? And this is what the ego does. This is how we face adversity. This is how we climb the ladder, is those realizations. When these things happen, the divine intelligence that is associated with it is the knowledge and wisdom that we gain in the experience, you know? So when it comes to triggered behavior or traumas or things that come up that ail you or piss you off or upset you in one way or another, you might be taking it too seriously. And that's what you're going to realize along the way, because you're putting unnecessary pressure on your body, because your body is your sacred temple, and God's trying to show you what the temple does. All right, what the temple is capable of, how you can reverse genealogy in a sense, you know, or absent behaviors, or shitty, you know, just shitty generational conditioning. This is what's happening. We're cleaning up the DNA. You know what I'm saying? And we should be more proud of that, you know, because we're carrying many generations. Each and every one of us are carrying a lineage with us. which is also sacred. This is why you have these gifts. They've been passed on to you through generations, is what Spirit is saying. You know what I'm saying? My dog even agrees, you know, and he's just a pup, not even 6 months, you know? And this is the sacred you that we all talk about, that a lot of people fantasize, or they're in delusion trying to figure out what the fuck that is. And that's that 0 point that's inside of you. You know what I'm saying? That's when you experience that bliss. It's when you know you've made it, you've acquired something, you're connected to something that is nothing less than profound. And then literally it shows you the way. It teaches you, follow the flow, be disciplined, be aligned, be committed. Understand that you can do more than one thing all at once, all right? You are not this limited being, and you do not have these fucking boundaries. This is an illusion. And that's what it shows you along the way, right? When we're not too busy bitching about something or judging something or having an opinion of something or arguing with ourselves. That is the opposite. And you know that because of the way that it feels when you even talk about it. It's right there in a moment. And if you're intuitive enough, or you picked up on that little shift inside of you, or that thing that twitched when you had that thought or that emotion came up, boom. That's how you know that you've changed, or you've picked up on something outside of yourself that requires your attention or your ignorance. You know, we take things too seriously. And that's what the divine shows us, is that we've thought about this world as it being the finite world that has molded us to operate within certain parameters, and the divine is actually pulling us away from those things. You know what I'm saying? And that's everything that you're feeling right now, whether good or bad or both, you know? And it's the attention that this reality wants from you. It wants to take you away from the flow of what actual life is and deny you your own fucking sacred sovereignty. Okay? And that's what it is. And when we incorporate that inside of our daily practice, then we understand that this life was always challenging us to be better, because we are. And that's what everything that we have been shown up until this point has brought us here. You know? Where's the honor for that? Where's the love for that? Where's the connection with that? You know? And that's where you study in gratitude, because they've caused you to look somewhere else when what you should be focusing on seems like it's painful. And it's only because you don't know better. You know? So what I hear is, where's the remorse? What's that for? What are we remorsing? You know what I'm saying? In those moments where these things come up inside of us and they bubble out of nowhere. You know? Where are you at in those moments? Are you the feeling, or are you the awareness of the feeling? And this is where the magic happens, fam. Because this is where you realize that things have been deceptive for a really long time, because they haven't been the actual truth. And that's the limitations and boundaries that we're all breaking right now. But we don't necessarily have the positive outlook of the long game of this. And we should be more focused on that long game and not focused on the short term, because the short term is basically panic and worry somehow, when the divine is already going to show you how. Should you practice, right? Should you honor that very fact within yourself, that you realize that, hey, this is a thing. It really is a fucking thing. And we're not sitting here making it up, because the confirmations can be unreal. You know what I'm saying? It could blow your fucking mind. Lord knows it has mine, you know? And I think that happens for everybody once in a while. That you just have, it's not all fucking glitter and glam most of the time, but every once in a while, there's a fucking aha that you're like, God is real and God is true. And God is also authentically you. In those moments, you, boom, have that little spark that bumps you up a notch to help you fucking learn more. And where do you think that's coming from? Where do you think the little pat on the butt is coming from? It's for you. But the divine is true. It's literally proving itself to you when these things happen in your life. In these moments of, you know, clarity. You know, tell me, have you not had this in your life? You know what I'm saying? Haven't you had an aha moment where you actually connected with God and may not have realized it? You know? And these are the fact of the matter, is what Spirit just said. Because there's little nuances and little instances in your life that you can relate to that help you remember your way home, where you belong, right? The divine one is what they're saying. You know, the sacred, the sovereign, the balanced, without fear, you know, without emotion, in a sense, without toxic emotion, you know, someone that lives with more joy and happiness the way that creation was intended to be, because it was created from that. And it was also created from you too, because you are it and it is you. And the interconnectedness of all things is calling to us in one way or another to settle our indifferences, settle our separation or bondage. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's addiction, pattern behavior, habits, it's one and all the same, you know? And we should be a little bit more forceful and courageous to carry on right now. You're on a new path today, people. It's no surprise. We knew this was going to happen yesterday. You know, it was like a lot of you are just going to wake up to something new today. You know, whether it seems unreal, whether it seems real, or whether it seems true is up to you, is what. Divine discernment. Divine discernment today, fam. You know what I'm saying? Like, life is a tornado, but it doesn't have to be. You can see that it's not connected to thee, which means chaos doesn't matter right now. You know what I'm saying? You shouldn't be feeding that, perpetuating that reality, or even being in a hostile situation like that. You know, it's a time for reflection, honestly. You know, but a lot of us could be busy, or we're not doing shit, or we should be doing shit and not doing shit. You know, for those of you who are on that tip, turn around and do shit. I'm seeing clothes, you know, laundry, stuff like that. You know, your day to day, you know, can't put it off no more. That's open doors, you know, is what they just said. So, you know, I think we're having these revelations, but I also think that, you know, people are carrying forward, but they're still carrying a lot of baggage in one way or not. And then we did a collective last night that talks about, it's like, hey, take a look at what you're carrying, because you don't need that. How are you going to deal with that? What are you going to do about it? Are you gonna cower in fear? Are you gonna cave into it? Or are you gonna fucking move on? Is what I feel with the Knight of Cups. You know what I'm saying? There's three choices here, and each one can have it all. You know, is what they just said. You know, but the emotional behavior has to go. You know, we can't have this. What I feel for the collective is that this triggered behavior is literally showing us what we're not. You know, and we have to learn how to release those things rapidly. You know, without and understanding that we are growth. You know what I'm saying? We have come so far that there's actually a destiny here, you know, that we don't have to look backwards anymore. It's more about looking at yourself and then learning to look forwards right now. You know, we're turning it around is what I'm also hearing with this energy. So I think it's a lot, and I just got touched, you know, but some of us could be in la la land. Some of us can be relapsing. Some of us can be drinking. Some of us can be trying to cope in ways that we don't necessarily should anymore. You know what I'm saying? And I think that people are having a fight with their addictions as well with this energy, that they're reorganizing or restructuring or really looking at their addictions, their habits, or their pattern behaviors that keep them in a place of discontent somehow. You know what I'm saying? Like, stop drinking the poison, man. You know what I'm saying? Because it's only distracting you from you and actually coming to terms with what you really are. And it's not really a coming to terms. I think that's more sarcastic. You know, you're just figuring out the real you, dude. Because a lot of us have been drunk to the point where we didn't even know what the fuck we are. You know? I mean, I myself, I didn't do I did a spiritual 12-step program. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I used to use that for shit, man. I used to it was a coping mechanism for me, man. I used to smoke and drink all the fucking time, and all I was doing was just wanting to live, right? But fucking dude, like, being a fucking deep feeler, a hypersensitive person, not fucking knowing it, and trying to fucking cope and navigate it in this world, bro, it's easy for us to get trapped, okay? I'm just gonna put that out there. You know what I'm saying? It's easy for us to fall into a fucking cycle, a habit, or a pattern. Why? Because that's all the holes that people dug for themselves before us. You know, and it's no wonder that we have the opportunity to step up and rise above those things. Because addiction is something that serves no one. It only teaches us not to do those things, but also at the same time, it's a really painful lesson. And you lose a lot of shit along the way. Lord knows I did. You know what I'm saying? 2 kids. That shit is real. It costs you something to be here. And we're, you know, honoring that space opens doors that you didn't even know were fucking possible. You know? That's a blessing in itself, because then the universe starts showing you the doors that you're opening and the quality of those doors by you walking through them, right? It's a match. So you realize that your problems aren't with anybody else. Your problems are with yourself, because the universe actually mirrors you to show you what you think you are. You know? What are we taking personal? Spite, fear, anger? What is that? When you come from that perspective, it's mind-blowing, is it not? You know, I never thought about it like that. Well, shit, start looking at everything like that and see what happens. Right? And that's what this energy represents right now. You know, that's what we got going on here, fam. You know, much love to each and every one of you that are going through it right now, for whatever reason that you're going through it, whether with your head up high or fucking just trying to maintain. You're here and there, okay? But you're also everywhere. And you got to open up to you right now. And the universe is calling you, you know? They want me to flip one more card. You are the masters of your own behavior, because your behaviors influence things, and so do your thoughts. And things are calling you that are attracting you to go there instead of where you are here. Okay, this is the divine direction that I'm receiving that a lot of people might be not knowing right now, but they can feel it somehow. You know, especially right now is what Spirit is saying, possibly even cold in the chest. You feel like you just want to change direction right now. They're showing me Uranus in the sky. This is that divine perspective of our astrology and how everything plays a part in our daily structure, and being aware of these things will actually get you out of the trap, or not get, and hopefully not get you stuck in another one. You know what I'm saying? While you're trying to figure things out in this new energy, gaining stability, taking a good look at what your life is going to really look like, or what you've been promised, or prophecy, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Whatever you got going on in your destiny or your legacy, or what you're meant to leave behind. Again, here's the long game coming up again, fam. All right? We are souls in a body, and time is well wasted when we don't think about these things, or when we don't practice these things, or when we don't commit to the very things that we are. You know what I'm saying? We lose it, right? And some of us like to cry about it, not realizing that the fullness of life can be lived in the moment. And it only takes a moment to get there. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that collective message, fam. It's a deep one, you know what I'm saying? But that's how divine love is, bro. It's non-denominational, and it doesn't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? And when you hold that within yourself, when you know why you don't give a fuck, it's because you've experienced, because you've realized these things, because you've absorbed, you've done the work. Dude, that's knowledge. And knowledge is power. You know what I'm saying? But divine knowledge is the power. It's not to overtake, it's overcome. You know what I'm saying? To discover the very things that you are. A soul and a body, a spirit and form, a piece of God like everything else. And it's beautiful. And you're learning how to live more like that here. And that's what's hard. But it doesn't have to be. And a lot of us are coming into acceptance to that, and allowing the divine flow and the divine wisdom to guide us and place us where we want to be, or where we need to be more than anything, which is right there in the Creator's face, because it's always looking at us back. And it knows us, and it's guiding us, and it's telling us what to do, and it's telling us where to go, and it's showing you your dreams come true along the way. You know what I'm saying? You see, when time slows down, the things that you get to see, the things that you get to embrace, the things that you get to connect with, do you see it? And then you have to go back to the bullshit, and then you don't want to go there anymore. You want to be here, now, present, in the moment, not absorbing anything, but observing everything. And that's your divine right to do so. Right? And then you get to see for just a brief moment what has been taken from you, but also given back to you simultaneously. And that's what happens in an awakening, in a realization, when you have a spark of knowledge or wisdom or clarity. It's a beautiful blessing. And we should absorb more, is what Spirit's saying, of these things, to better understand ourselves and what's going on here and what's really real versus what you believe to be real. You know, but God's going to show you who you are and what you're meant to be here. That's a promise. You know, I promise that. As long as you're willing to do so right now, you know, because this world is not what you think it is, and you are not what you think you are. So therefore you got two negative aspects here fighting against you that don't belong to you, as divine sacred knowledge and wisdom speaks itself to you right now. So let me know what you think about that in the comments, fam. Because it's a beautiful fucking message. You know, a lot of us don't know how to connect with this stuff anymore. But it's there, it's real, it's true. You know, it'll oversensitize you, but it'll show you what's real. It'll show you what is true. The knowledge is you. You know? Discover the real you. You know? If you guys are looking for more intuitive guidance on these, I am doing energy readings today. You know, where you stand in the energy, or where you stand in life, or whatever literally needs to come up in that space. I am doing those readings for $25, fam. If you want, the link is in the bio. Just type down in how you donated. I'd be more than happy to do a reading for you today. If you have any questions, or you just need to digress, go for it. You know, because this is good stuff. It really is. It nurtures the soul. And a lot of us lack those nutrients of nurturing and honoring the soul that we are, the soul in the body, the godlike structure, the spark, the flow of life itself. You know what I'm saying? That's a deep level of respect, where we realize that we have the ability to honor ourselves for the first time in a long time, because it's our divine right to do so, and we've been given that space. You know, so give yourselves a pat on the back, fam.